Hello and welcome to Suzuka in Japan on a day that produces much better weather than we saw for qualifying on Friday. Konnichiwa and welcome everybody. I'm Martin Haven. Alongside me in the booth is Matt Neal. Down in the pit lane, we'll hear from Alex Legui later. But for now, Matt, at least the weather looks set fair after some really grim conditions yesterday for qualifying, which has also ended up changing a whole host of the grid positions for this first race.
Yeah, we've actually got blue sky today, haven't we?
Yeah.
Which you would have never said yesterday, but it's a complete role change. Yeah, grid is rather interesting. The list of penalties, we have 21 and counting.
21 penalties for race one alone. There are 29 cars in the field. Among the most significant will be that Thiago Monteiro is no longer on pole. You saw Esteban Guerrieri's car has now been moved up to the DHL pole position. Tom Coronel and Ivan Muller there both received penalties for causing red flags in qualifying when they went off and their cars got stuck off track. Conditions were so bad. I'm not sure how many times in his career Ivan Muller's been responsible for a red flag, but I bet you could count it on the fingers of one hand. And when drivers of that experience go off, it was just whitewater rafting yesterday. Norbert Michelisz, the championship leader, coming in here with 2 grid penalties. So here's your grid. Esteban Guerrieri ahead of the Audis of Nils Langeveld and Frederick Vervisch. Thiago Monteiro 3 places back on the grid, loses pole. Then in 5th position, wildcard, Ritomo Miyata ahead of Ted Björk and Andy Prio. 3-place grid drop for Gabriele Tarquini leaves him 8th ahead of Johan Kristoffersen and Benny Leuchter in their Golfs. Just behind them, outside of the top 10, the Audi Jean-Carl Verne. WRT were not on top of the Audi setup in the rain. Last year's race one winner Kevin Chicon starts 12th ahead of Yann Elaché and the second of our wildcards, and that is Riichiro Tomita. Marcin Kwa in the second Alpha ahead of Rob Huff. Norbert Michelisz with 2 grid penalties down to 17th ahead of Gordon Shedden. Attila Tashi 19th and penalised Aurelian Panis in 20th. Mehdi Benani and Nicky Katzberg with penalties on row 11 of the grid. Penalties for Augusto Farfus and Mikel Ascona on row 12 of the grid. Penalties for Ivan Muller and Daniel Hegloff on row 13 of the grid. Penalties for Nestor Girolami and Tom Coronel on row 14 of the grid. And finally, Jim Carto starts in 15th place with, you guessed it, a penalty. So penalties for causing red flags, for going too slowly in qualifying, for too many reprimands, and for breach of Parc Fermé regulations have changed quite a lot of the grid positions. But it is Esteban Guerrieri who will start the first race here on the short East Circuit at Suzuka on pole. Well, it's definitely a lot better condition for racing and for the fans as well. It just rained relentlessly yesterday, and as a result, everybody was thoroughly drenched. So much so that teams actually took cars into the garage to work on them, which is against the regulations. Well, looking down our grid, 17th place for Benny Leuchter, one of a number of drivers here for the very first time. Now, the last couple of times that we raced in Suzuka, last year when we were here, we were on the full long circuit. Matt, we're back to the shorter circuit, the East Circuit that we used 2 or 3 times in the past. What it does mean is it's a short lap, just over 2 kilometers. It takes under a minute to get round in the dry, but that means there's 24 laps, which would give us time to go through about half the grid penalties, but actually gives the drivers 24 opportunities to try and make up places.
Yeah, the Suzuka East Circuit, as they refer to it, is it's more akin to Brands Hatch Indy, if people in the UK know that one. What we will do is make the racing much closer, much more frenetic. It's going to be tough to overtake round here, so you're going to see a little bit of pushing and shoving because they can't do the slipstreaming and the drafting out the back on the long straights. So, you know, grid position is paramount. It's everything, and with all the grid penalties hanging out, it's a bit of a wounder for a few people. But it's what it is. Good news. It's great news for Esteban Guerreri.
Yep.
And his championship, because Norby Michelitz has had a few grid penalties. Ivan Muller's down the back. He's got a lot of work to do this weekend, not just for race 1, but for races 2 and 3 tomorrow. So, you know, it's definitely advantage Honda and Esteban Guerreri at the minute.
Yeah, and after the weekend that they had last time out in Ningbo, they need that sort of boost, and Guerrieri starts at the front with Norby in 17th and Ivan 25th. Cars on the grid in conditions that they have not run in this weekend. Matt, yesterday wasn't just wet, it was absolutely drowning. The track was flooded through free practice. It dried out a little bit in free practice 2, got much wetter again for qualifying 1. Then for the 3-part qualifying, it was still wet but going to dry. So much so, in fact, in the end, Johan Kristoffersson went out on slicks, but on a drier track. Now, what does it mean to the cars? These cars have not raced on the East Circuit. These cars have not turned a wheel in the dry. Apart from Kristoffersson, nobody else has even taken a slick and put it on a car. So how's that going to change what the drivers are doing with the car, and how are they finding a setup now for conditions they've not run in?
Yeah, Martin, they'll have a base setup which they'll know will be somewhere about, which they'll arrive at circuits at. You know, whether it's with the shorter, tight and twisty circuits, which this more so is now, or the long slipstreaming circuits. So they'll have a rule of thumb, but it is a bit of a finger in the air, guessing game. You know, we just saw Andy Priault. He's had a tough year so far this year, but in qualifying, he was untouchable. He's on pole now by virtue of a grid penalty, but he should have been on pole anyway. It's only because he put a wheel on the grass. You know, he was all through qualifying. He was just the class of the field, and it's great to see Andy back up there, and whatever he did with the car, it was really working well for him. Well, and he was on another plane.
Now we're going to find out today and again tomorrow whether it was the fact that in the rain the car was much less front wheel drivey, if you like, or whether he's actually really got a setup that he can work with in all conditions, whether he can make progress here in the dry. There's Kevin Chacon at Team Mulsanne. Chacon won here, Alfa Romeo's first win in WTCR and in international TCR racing of any kind, and he has not had the pace this weekend. Riichiro Miyata, one of the 2 wildcards, entered here by the Japanese Audi squad. This is a team that races in TCR in Japan. TCR Japan is also here this weekend. These guys stepping up also as wildcards to WTCR, and they're not alone. Jim Carto being run by KCMG. He is also a wildcard, the Hong Kong driver. Assuming that we will also see him in Macau as well, his quote home race. So Thiago Monteiro losing out on a very hard-earned and well-fought pole position because of penalties. Lots of drivers with penalties for going too slowly at the beginning or through the qualifying or free practice sessions. Essentially what happened is 29 cars leaving the pit lane in the pouring rain all in one go, and everybody slow out on the outlap to try and give themselves room. By which stage, the cars that went out first, the Lincoln Co cars of Ted Bjerk and Ivan Muller, were on flying laps, basically coming up against slow traffic where the drivers were trying to sort themselves out some room.
I mean, it did get a bit ridiculous. It was like a queue out of Sainsbury's, wasn't it? But that are not the only things that they picked up penalties for. You know, there's a whole raft of, if you look at the list of it, from working on the car, pushing the car in the garage, mechanics being without the safeties, which they could. It's almost like we've arrived at Japan, and because penalties are from observers and officials picking you up, and it's almost like the Japanese officials have been super fastidious and just
Yep.
jobs worth, and it'd be something the teams might be doing it every race of the year, but
yep.
at this particular one, they've been hauled up for it.
Yeah, it could well be. I mean, lots of penalties didn't incur grid penalties, but 21 grid penalties for this race alone. Our safety car driver heading back to pit lane.
Hi everyone, it's JK-san. You're on board on my Audi RS3 LMS. Gonna start from P11 on the grid for this race one. Yesterday was kind of a big mess with I won't call it typhoon, but heavy rain. A lot of aquaplaning was very difficult, very tricky. A lot of red flags. Fortunately, we made wrong calls about tires at the wrong moment, and couldn't qualify better than P11. Should have been much better, but that's part of racing. But let's see. Today it's blue sky, dry track, and we'll see what we can do. Track I think is quite slippery. So we'll see. I have strong competitors in front of me, and we'll try to do the best as we can. For the championship now, it's quite difficult, so I can take a little bit more risk, but we'll see. Car should be okay. Very motivated, and I have all my team behind me. Thanks all the sponsors, Anonimo, Leopard, and yeah, you should watch the race. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be exciting, and a lot of contacts, and you can make sure that I will do all my best to make it. See you guys. Ichiban, hi.
Jean-Carl Vernet, a big fan of Japan, of the culture, of the people here, particularly the fans. Spent a lot of time racing here. Like Tom Coronel, Tom always says this is his second home. And Coronel very disappointed after qualifying way down at the back of the grid before the penalties. However, at the sharp end, three of the top 5 cars are Audis. In third place on the grid is Frederik Vervisch, and he and Niels Langeveld, his teammate, were in scintillating form in the Come To You Audis in wet free practice, and that translated into the wet qualifying 1 session, and so they've both been promoted 1 spot up the grid, so it will be a third place start for Frederik Vervisch. Niels Langeveld is on the front row of the grid. Blue-ish skies and some hazy cloud over Hondaland, a little bit of a breeze. The track is dry, but the runoff areas are definitely not. If you venture off the grey stuff, you will be in a mud bath, as lots of drivers found over the qualifying period. Now, Audi strong in qualifying in the rain in the first qualifying session. Niels Langeveld producing great pace with his teammate in the WRT Audis, Frederik Vervisch, in qualifying and also in free practice. They were fastest of all in the first free practice session, where it was really wet. And Matt Neal, for the first time all year, WRT have out-qualified, I beg your pardon, Come To You have out-qualified the WRT Audis, so they have really found a setup. But the man on pole position, who walked away from a wrecked car in race 3 in Ningbo to really kind of just draw a line under a wretched weekend, is Esteban Guerrieri. Went to China as the points leader, came away trailing Norbert Mikulits by 11 points, but now Guerrieri has a great opportunity in the first of 3 races here to retake the championship lead.
Yeah, the all-Incal, the black and white all-Incal cars, Hondas, have been strong everywhere. Everyone's had their moment of glory, but the 2 all-Incal cars have been there every race until they got to Ningbo in China, and they just, it was whichever way they turned, whatever they did, it just seemed to go wrong for them. And they, you know, both of the Argentinian drivers they've got, they fought hard, but it was a real uphill battle for them. But yeah, they're bouncing back, and you know, this is a great opportunity. It's a home Grand Prix for them, so if they want to perform anywhere, it's here at Honda's home circuit. So it's a great opportunity now today, especially with Esteban having grid position.
And that's really important, because since Esteban left the Nürburgring in July, he scored points once. That was in race 3 in Portugal, so he really needs to break that run of bad results and get some points here. So if the Audis come calling, third or fourth is better than no points at all. He now has to really play with a championship head on. Well, as we go through the grid again, you can see all the penalties, some of them for causing red flags in qualifying going off, some of them for breaking parc fermé regulations, some of them for going too slowly in free practice or in qualifying to make yourself some room on the track, and a whole host of others. In terms of the championship, Esteban Guerrieri 9 points behind Norbert Michelisz. Ivan Muller a further 7 adrift. Ted Björk still in the hunt with Muller as well. Mikel Ascona is Nestor Girolami.
Maybe I will not go to my grid place because I don't see the lights on the wall.
Okay, that's very interesting. Ivan saying maybe I will not go to my grid place because I don't see the lights from there. What? Or I don't see the line. Not quite sure what was going on there. However, leading the team standings, Cyan Racing Link & Co. And don't forget, of course, there are 2 Cyan Racing Link & Co. teams. So that is the one that has got... I'm not sure which of the 2. Is that Ted Björk and Andy Prio's squad, or is that Ivan Muller and Jan Erlesch's half of the garage? Not sure. Esteban Guerrieri comes to pole position. Niels Langeveld, has he been on the podium this season? I don't think he has, in any way, shape or form.
Should I push in the early lap, or should I mind the lap time? What do you think?
No, forget the lap time, just push, mate, push to make a gap, okay? Just manage the race as you like.
I agree, I think it's better.
Good advice for Esteban Guerrieri. Just get on with the race and ignore BOP worries. Just win and take the points.
It's
29 cars come to the grid here in Suzuka, the first of 3 races here in Japan. Dry track conditions. What is that going to throw up? Grid mixed up by post-free practice and qualifying penalties, but critically, the championship leader, Norbert Michelisz, starts in 17th place. Second position in the points, Esteban Guerrieri is on pole. Third place in the points, Ivan Muller is in 25th. This is an open goal for Guerrieri. He must score big points here. Green flag waves at the back of the field. Esteban Guerrieri already looking to cover off Niels Langeveld. 5 red lights are on, away we go. First of 24 laps here at Suzuka, and Guerrieri covers off Langeveld. Frederik Vervisch on the outside of the Dutchman. Audis side by side. Vervisch goes the long way round the outside. And Guerrieri has a little cold tyre bobble. Langeveld comes back under and is looking around the outside. Can Niels Langeveld take the lead here? Matt, it looks nice and clean. Guerrieri is in a fight here. Thiago Monteiro in 4th. Not a championship contender, but he's going to have to try and get his car. He should have been on pole. Try and get his car up in amongst the Audis.
Guerrieri was having to look every which way, but I thought Vervisch was going to pull off the move right the way around outside of turn 1. Guerrieri saw him off, and then Langeveld sneaked up the other inside.
Yeah, Langeveld and Guerrieri from the front row. Niels Langeveld leads, and look at Thiago Monteiro in 4th. He's right up behind the Audi of Frederik Vervisch. Langeveld leading from Guerrieri. Monteiro wants to get ahead of Vervisch to try and guard the back bumper of the fellow Honda driver Esteban Guerrieri. They're in different teams, but Thiago not a championship contender any longer. A little further back, there's the Alfa of Checon inside Rob Huff.
Yeah, it's a real topsy-turvy grid, Martin. There's no real sort of groups of the same team or manufacturer packed together, so it's literally going to be every man for themselves out there.
Muller following Panis through the field. Both of them had good pace in free practice. Both of them went off in qualifying and brought out red flags and were dropped way down the order, losing their fastest laps and having a penalty. Somebody's gone off on the outside in the grass or in the dust. Not sure who that was. Maybe they came back on. So Guerrieri. Now, did Guerrieri take the lead there? Yes, Guerrieri took the lead from Niels Langeveld. We didn't see how that happened.
Yeah, that was out of shot.
On board with Norbert Michaelis behind the wild card. So this is Norby behind Riichiro Tomita. Tomita knows the circuit well.
It's literally going to be trying to pressurize each one for a mistake.
Yep. There's Guerrieri now pulling away from Niels Langeveld. Frederik Vervisch in third. Thiago Monteiro in fourth place under pressure from the blue car of Ted Björk, the first of the Lincoln Co cars. And Björk, as well as Guerrieri, trying to outscore Ivan Muller and Norbert Michaelis. Don't forget, Ted Björk, World Touring Car Champion a couple of seasons ago. 2017, he's a title contender here as well. First of the Golfs is behind him, that's Johan Kristoffersen. Then there's a gap back to Benny Leuchter in seventh. We heard Guerrieri talking to his race engineer and saying, shall I just look at, you know, delta lap times, not going too fast? And no, get away, get the points.
Yeah, I mean, Guerrieri's not going to be wanting to hang about now. He's going to want to try and gap Langeveld in second, but Langeveld's keeping him under pressure, isn't he? He's keeping him honest.
I know where the dirt came from. Look at the left side of Langeveld's car. He went off out of the final corner where Prio did in qualifying. That's broken the floor a little bit now. What's going on behind?
That'll be how Guerrieri got through them.
Yeah. So Langeveld ran out wide. Well, there's lots of tyre marks there, but some of those are from Niels Langeveld. So the Dutchman will have been cursing to himself. Look behind, Rob Huff in the Golf in the middle of a couple of blue cars. So Huff is in 12th with Erlaché and Prio right behind him. Whoa, big slide from Ted Björk though. The car a bit of a loose handful as he gets into turn one, right up behind Thiago Monteiro in the number 18 Honda.
Yeah, what is prevalent, Martin, is the temperature is still in its early 20s. We go to hotter climates and hotter countries, but with the intense closeness of the racing around here, these guys are going to have to watch the temperatures on the engine and the brakes primarily. So, the last third of the race, we could see him running into a little bit of bother.
Well, we're already on lap 5 out of 24, so we're a fifth of the way in. Riding on board, this is the view from Andy Prio.
Yeah, you can.
Yes, he's aware.
Okay, not sure what Ivan was ranting about. Something off, not sure. There's Ivan right behind Andy Prio. 111 Andy Prio, 100 is Ivan. That's what he was asking for. Yeah. And so Ivan Muller picks up one place. That was a free pass to get by Andy Prio. And that moves Ivan Muller up into 15th and a point.
Yeah.
100, Ivan Muller, the first of the Lincoln Co cars here behind Benny Leuchter, and Muller now in 15th place. He's in the points, but now he's got to make progress. Leuchter was not fast in free practice, he was not fast in qualifying, and he drifts out wide, very wide indeed. Horrendous mistake there by Benny Leuchter, and Ivan Muller goes through. Oh dear, oh dear.
That was a proper home goal, wasn't it?
Has Leuchter got a problem there, or was there just so much dirt on the tyres? Look, he's just sinking like a stone now.
Yeah, he's just lost the momentum on the straight, Martin, and that's just they've all gobbled him up.
Norby in 18th place behind Aurelian Panis. No, puncture for Frederik Vervisch. Wow. Now, we haven't seen any contact.
No, is that ominous?
He's out of third, so Thiago is now up to third. Esteban Guerrieri leads from Niels Langeveld. Thiago Monteiro third. Gordon Shedden's in. Contact on the left rear.
Oh, he's got some mud on the side of his tyres, is that? Now, are we going to see a few nervous Yokohama technicians around the place?
Okay, well, not after 5 laps or 6 laps or 7 laps.
But they're running aggressive cambers to get the front end to work.
Wow. So safety car is out from the recovery of Frederik Vervisch. And as of now, Guerrieri, Langeveld, Monteiro. The problem now for Esteban Guerrieri is that he is leading from Niels Langeveld, and Langeveld will stay where he is, right behind.
So why do you need a safety car for that?
Well, I don't know, but they have been very keen to put safety cars out. It might be that Marshall's reporting some debris somewhere after a couple of bits of contact earlier on.
Maybe there's a Yokohama guy driving the safety car. Calm things down a bit.
It should be our safety car driver, Bruno Correa. This is his first dry lap, effectively, in a session. Benny Leuchter is in. I think he had a puncture or some other damage. Yeah, look, there's a tyre. It was just...
No, Martin, he suddenly clocked Muller, and I think that flustered him. He just put one wheel on the dirt, and then he was away.
Entirely possible, but he's obviously reporting some problem because they're looking at both sides of the car.
Well, they better be quick doing this, otherwise he's going to go a lap down.
Well, I mean, he's out of it anyway. You know, in a field of 29 cars, the moment you lose any ground, you're out. Frederik Vervisch, this was his chance for a great result, and unfortunately, that's gone a bit west.
Yeah, because tomorrow's race is the Audis.
Yeah.
None of them are in the top 10, are you? Here we go, with the start again.
Now, Esteban moves over immediately to cover Langeveld, but that means as he's starting to turn a little, he's not as quick down to turn one as he should be, and that gives Vervisch a chance to go around the outside.
Yeah, but it stops Langeveld lunging him into turn one and then him getting hung out. I thought he'd actually got it. Langeveld just gets a great drive out of the apex of turn one, doesn't he?
And then watch Guerrieri from pole position midway through turn one. He has a big cold tyre bobble, doesn't he? The back of the car just snaps sideways, and look behind, like 3 wide, 4 wide. I'm sure there was lots of contact in that huge pack of cars.
Safety car lights out, is it?
Yes. So safety car due to come in. So Esteban Guerrieri will restart. Now what that's done is it's brought Ted Björk and the others, or it should have brought them a little closer. How is there a big gap behind? Oh, I know why there's a big gap behind Nils Langeveld, because Thiago Monteiro has made sure there's a big gap.
Well, they've got to be careful. They don't get busted for that.
I know. So away we go, green again, and that will add 2 laps to our race distance. It's showing 1 has been added. Do we only have 1 lap behind the safety car?
I think it's a short lap, Martin. So it could have been 1, 2, 3 laps while we were merrily chatting away in the background.
I can't believe that we're 10 laps in already. However, race distance is now not 24 but 25 laps. So Esteban Guerrieri, the leader, but it's what's happening further back. Thiago Monteiro is 3rd in the 18 Honda, right behind the blue car of Ted Björk. Don't forget, Ted Björk is lying in 4th in the championship. He's 22 points behind Ivan Muller, and if he can get onto the podium here ahead of Thiago Monteiro, then he will be just a handful of points behind Muller. Muller has now moved up to 13th. He will score 3 points from here. He's got Marcinkoir ahead of him, so he'll be trying to get by the Alpha, but pulling out of the slipstream in the Alpha, that is Kevin Chekon looking at getting by Gabriele Tarquini for 8th as Björk shoots up the inside, trying to get the pass done on Monteiro. Thiago now is defending Guerrieri's points lead, isn't he?
I don't know, Martin. I think Thiago's got aspirations of himself. The one that's impressed me is Ivan Muller. I mean, he's starting 25th on the grid. He is now 13th.
Yeah.
But the attitude of his car, he looks fast. He looks as though he's on the front foot everywhere.
Well, you always know when Ivan's coming up behind you, he's going to try and overtake, and he usually finds a way. On board with Ted Björk. So as you saw from the points situation, as of now, Esteban Guerrieri retakes the points lead from Norbert Mikelic, because Mikelic, who started 17th, is currently in 17th and not scoring a point. The points leader coming here will lose that lead immediately in race 1. There's a little wheel arch liner in the middle of the road from somebody's car. The Hyundais have not gone well in the wet, and they're not going well in the dry either. Where's the best Hyundai in the race? It's Gabriele Tarquini in 8th. The next best is Norby in 17th, with Nicky Katzberg and Augusto Farfus following along behind him.
Yeah, it didn't matter whether they're in the torrential rain or the damp conditions. They've just seemed to have struggled the weekend, don't they? Really have,
and I'm not quite sure what it is about the circuit that doesn't agree with them. But maybe it's the extra balance of performance changes after Ningbo, where they fared well. Looking back, That's the view of Rob Huff closing in behind Kevin Chekon from the Alpha, looking forward from the Alpha now, right in front of him, Gabriele Tarquini. And don't forget, Chekon led Tarquini.
Faster in the first sector. Copy.
Chekon led Tarquini on the Grand Prix circuit. In race 3, Chekon was the first to the line, but because his car wasn't perfectly in its grid box at the start of the race, he had a 5-second penalty, and Tarquini ended up winning the race ahead of him. But Chekon had already won race 1, finished on the podium in all 3 races here in the Alpha last year, and it's looking a better car in the dry than it did in the rain yesterday.
I just think I saw Muller's pass Mark Qingchar now.
Yeah.
So he's up another place to 12th, and we might just get it on the timing screen as they come past. But I definitely saw...
Well, oh, look at this. There is Tarquini. Oh, he's going by the wild card. Miata out of 5th position. So he's dropping down the order. What's happened to the Japanese Alpha? Audi, rather. Well, whatever's happened, Miata is dropping. His teammate Ryuichiro Tomita is in 15th behind Andy Prio.
Oh no, it's LSA's in front of
Mar. Yeah, he was in front of Mar,
okay.
yeah. But so if Ivan gets by Mar, that'll move him from... Here we are.
It's another freebie.
I know.
Yeah.
So Mar's gone by Air Lachey. So Mar has actually passed. So now Muller can jump Air Lachey.
Yeah.
Air Lachey will just move aside on the straight. Muller will go by and follow Mar through.
I would have thought that it would have been wiser for Air Lachey to try and back the Alpha up into Ivan. And
I think maybe that's what was happening, but the Alpha is quicker here in the dry. Well, I think the Alpha is just a quicker car in the dry than the Lincoln Co is. Both Alphas are ahead of all the Lincoln Co cars except for Ted Björk, but Björk was a long way further up the grid. Don't forget, Ted started 6th after all the other problems and penalties for everybody else. Ted Björk was in 6th position on the grid. He's now running in 4th, trying to get by the red, white and black Honda. Oh, contact! Miata, and that's Tomita.
Yeah.
So Ryuichiro Tomita, and that was contact with Aurelian Panis. Tomita was already going slowly, and Panis trying to go through on the inside was 3 places behind him going into turn 1. I wonder if Tomita has picked up a puncture as well.
Well, the times are deteriorating, Martin, and you know we can't compare qualifying, obviously, because it was wet. But if you look at the times they were doing from the beginning of the race to now, and it's only a 55-second lap, they're a good second off. Sort of dropped a second in 10 laps.
Now, Niels Langeveld is closing up. Okay, so there's Miata in the pit lane. Niels Langeveld is closing up now on the race leader Esteban Guerrieri. Last lap he was about a 1/10 of a second faster. So now look at the gaps. Muller is ahead of Björk still as they are now, and Muller is picking up more points with every pass. He's gone by Air Lachey, as we suggested would happen, and he's now got 2 rear gunners with Jan Air Lachey and Andy Prio behind him. Muller's up to 11th. Ted Björk is stuck in 4th. Björk started 6th, 19 places on the grid ahead of Ivan Muller. He's now running 4th, only 7 places ahead of Ivan Muller.
Yeah, the problem for the Lincoln Co, it's a big car.
Yeah.
This little tight and twisty circuit should suit something with a short wheelbase, you know, short length, like the Alpha, you know, like
and the Honda, and it has suited the Honda, but as you said, you know, the all-in-cool Munich Motorsport Hondas have been good everywhere. They've been fast everywhere.
The Honda isn't one of the shortest cars now with the FK8 because it has grown in length, but things like the Golf, you know, they're a short, stubby car, but and with a good front end. Yeah. You know, I would have thought they'd have been a little bit more aggressive, you know, in race trim.
On board with Jean-Carl Vernet, this is the battle for, well, 3rd, because you got Montero, Björk and Johan Kristoffersson, car number 14 ahead of us. So Kristoffersson is 5th, just ahead you can see the blue car of Björk, and ahead of him is Thiago Montero. Jean-Carl Vernet, a real fan of Japan, spent a lot of his racing career here, like Tom Coronel, loves coming back to Japan. The fans here are as enthusiastic and knowledgeable as you will find anywhere, but with this overriding layer of intense politeness. They're so enthusiastic, they dress up, they know everything about all the drivers, they really know their stuff. They are so polite in their requests for signatures and sign a model or a cap or whatever.
Well, it's interesting when Tom Coronel was saying, what did you learn most about racing in Japan in your early life? He said, to abide by the rules and be honest. And, you know, it was life morals more than other things about racing.
Yeah, very much so. I think that's absolutely right. Guerrieri leads Langefeld across the line by under a second now. Montero in third place. Ted Bjerg showing the nose down into turn one, but that's as much perhaps to get cooling air through the radiators as anything else.
Well, I don't know. We're now getting into the parts of the race. You know, times have dropped off another half a second again. You know, they're a second and a half off. We're going to see which cars are being kinder on the tyres and which ones aren't. So it's some that will have gone aggressive on the setup for speed. Some will have gone for the long game, so running less camber or caster. So it's now going to the status quo of who's on the front and who's on the back foot could quite easily change now.
And we had, how many, 21 cars covered by a second in the wet in qualifying. I mean, all these cars are very, very closely matched. And so if you're a fraction out on your guest's dry weather setup, you can really struggle. On board with Norbert Mikulits, he's in 14th. He's finally in the points, making progress. He got ahead of Nicky Katzberg. So our championship leader, Norbert Mikulits, was in 14th, but Nicky Katzberg's just gone by him. Not quite sure why. Looking there at car number 14, that is the Golf of Johan Kristoffersson. Fastest man in Q3 yesterday on a drying track with slick tyres. Kristoffersson looking at a 5th place finish here in race 1.
Yeah, to be fair, Martin, I mean, another good mover over the grid who's quietly got on with it.
Released Katzberg to have a go. Cheers, Katzberg behind for position.
Ah, okay, so they've moved Katzberg ahead of Norby to try and attack Andy Priault, the rear gunner for Ivan Muller. That's the queue of blue cars at the top of the picture.
Just going back, one guy who's been under the radar is Jean-Carl Venet. Started 12th, now running 6th. And you can see he's right at the chuff of the cars in front of him.
Well, there's Andy Priault being defensive on the inside against Nicky Katzberg.
Priault's going to be busy now.
Yeah.
Katzberg's not afraid of getting rolling his sleeves up and getting stuck in.
Well, Katzberg had a 10-place grid drop for picking up a 3rd reprimand this season. Notice that drivers who've been penalised get points on their licence. Gabriele Tarquini with 8 points on his, so he's had an entertaining season one way or another.
Problem is, if Katzberg does manage to muscle his way past Priault, he's got another 2 to go then.
Well, now, so what happens now? So Katzberg gets inside Priault. Ooh, Kristoffersson defending from Vernet. And that is for 5th position. Oh, looks like the Audi's got a little more than the Golf at the moment. But can Jean-Carl find a way through? The other thing that I think everybody learns here, off goes Priault, defending too late into turn 1. Priault goes off, and that might bring out the safety car. Well, that's where Ivan Muller had a big shunt in the rain in qualifying. Aquaplane straight off at unmitigated speed, wrecked the car. Safety car is out with 4 laps to go.
Yeah, we didn't see that. Oh, I didn't.
Well, I was going to ask, okay, let's say Katzberg gets by Priault. How does that help Norby? Norby's still stuck behind Priault, or would have been.
You can see by Andy's body language, I don't think that was a mistake. I reckon that was, he's a victim there.
Yeah, maybe so. There may have been contact.
Be interested to see if we can get a replay.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Well, Priault defends, ran over that debris that was in the track. That was that bit of debris that was in the track.
No, I think he got a push early on.
No, there was a bit of debris there. It's been there for laps in the track. See, there it is, by the white line. He did get a push.
He did get a push.
Okay, so he got a push from Katzberg. So Katzberg will pick up a penalty for that, no question at all.
I mean, he was going defensive, but...
Yeah, Prio is now going to do the waving the fist at your rival.
Go on, Andy.
Yeah, he's not at all happy. The marshal is suggesting that he goes to a place of safety. Andy currently has got the Nigel Mansell head on, hasn't he?
He wants to make his point, yeah.
No, he wants to run across the track and go to the pits. Well, that bit of debris is still in the track. Now, that would be a great opportunity for the marshals to go and pick up the bit of debris.
He just fired me off. Copy, mate. We saw.
Yeah. Well, it was not a particularly clever move by Nicky Katzberg. Andy Prio was over the white line, almost trying to defend, but he was still holding his position, as is his right, and Katzberg got into the back of the Lincoln Co. And Matt, when you make contact there, when the car's under braking, it can't slow down anymore.
Yeah, Katzberg makes a late move, just gets in the back of him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But what that does do, it vaults Norby up.
Yep.
Gets Norby points.
Norby gets one place because Katzberg will now, well, even if he'll move aside anyway, but he'll lose any position he had before.
But Norby picks up championship points.
However,
Katzberg picks up penalty points.
However, Muller is now on the fringes of the top 10, and Ted Björk is still 4th. So Björk has made up 2 places. Ivan is making up nearly 15 right now.
And while it all kicks off behind him, Guerreri's having a lovely time at the front.
Yeah. Well, problem for Guerreri is he started with Ivan 10 places away from any points, and Ivan is now in the points. Esteban can't earn any more than he is currently earning. All that could happen is he can lose points. But, as we heard on the grid, shall I worry about lap times? No. You don't get anything at the end of the year for having the best balance of performance at the end of the season. You only get it for having the best points haul. Take the points.
Here we go.
Yeah. I don't think that the Prio family will be needing to buy any cards at Christmas for Katzberg. Andy, not at all happy. Now, Andy is, a real touring car veteran. And
he's a touring car veteran.
And he's not a push-to-pass kind of a driver.
No.
Nicky push Andy out. He's behind Jan, so be careful.
Yeah, I saw that one. They are crazy, those guys. They are not under control.
Yes, agree.
I believe he will be a bit less stupid with Jan now.
Yeah, I think so. There's still safety car. Remember, if we restart the race, you need to have 5 car lengths maximum to the guy in front.
And that might be a potential problem for Thiago Montero. The rules are you must have 5 car lengths maximum to the guy in front. Montero is now right behind Nils Langeveld. Ted Björk is not that close to Thiago, but at the previous restart, Thiago was definitely more than 5 car lengths behind Langeveld as he held up the rest of the field. So we could see, I mean, penalties, 21 grid penalties for race 1. There are, I believe, north of 30 more penalties coming for race 2 and race 3 from Saturday's 2nd set of qualifying.
Is this for sure the last lap?
Are we going to finish under a safety car? Right, we must do, yeah.
Well, the race total has now gone out to 26 laps. You can only add 2 laps, no matter how many safety car laps you have. Original distance was 24. This is the last lap. We will finish under safety car. We don't necessarily. Safety car can peel into the pits, but you can't pass until you're over the finish line. So finish behind the safety car because Andy's car is still stuck in the barriers or in the gravel. So Esteban Guerrieri will win this from Nils Langeveld. Thiago Montero at the moment in 3rd.
Well, safety car lights are out, so...
Yeah, so he's going to go into the pit lane, but there'll be no passing until you're past the safety car line, which is the finish line. So effectively, this is the new FIA way. We don't finish under safety car, but we don't go green either. So it's not a green-white checker, it's a checkered flag. Full yellow flags are still out. Well, Esteban Guerrieri did everything he could, but really critically behind, with Niels Langeveld taking his first ever podium in WTCR. I mean, that's a huge result for him. Really disappointed, I'm sure, still with himself that he went off while in the lead. But at least he only lost one place to Esteban Guerrieri. Guerrieri now picking up all the debris he can find. Adds weight to the car, helps with the ride height a little bit.
Yeah, good solid race for Guerrieri. A bit uneventful, but he did what he needed to do. And while it all kicked off behind him, there was some stellar performances from the likes of Muller and Jean-Carl Vanet. Katzberg, the Hyundai hitman, doing his work.
Somehow, I'm not sure if it was behind the safety car or not, Norby has got ahead of Nicky Katzberg. Remember, we heard on the radio to Ivan that Katzberg was behind Jan Erlache. Well, at that stage, he wasn't.
Yeah, but you can't.
Fuck yes. Fuck yes. Fuck yes, man. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Perfect job, mate. Perfect job. Yeah, shit on the tyres and stop at the start of the pit lane. Okay, directions from me.
All right, well, and obviously delighted Esteban Guerrieri.
When you're taught, you go to foreign teams, and he's obviously Argentine in an Italian team, and English is the international language. The first things you learn are the wrong things.
Every racing driver learns to swear in English.
But swearing in another language never sounds as bad, does it?
No, but English is definitely the best language for swearing.
I don't know, Italian's pretty good as well.
I know. Well, Esteban Guerrieri, the race winner from Niels Langeveld and Thiago Monteiro. And that is a huge result for Niels Langeveld. And a massive championship gain again for Esteban Guerrieri, our new points leader. He's delighted, isn't he? You know, this is the other side of the coin after Ningbo, where he just felt like, you know, somebody had kicked his dog and broken a mirror and everything else. And there's Niels Langeveld. He is absolutely thrilled. I'm sure the Come To You team are very happy with that as well. And while Guerrieri is delighted, we know both drivers in Munich Motorsport can do the job, he and Nestor Girolami. But up until now, in Come To You, it's been Fredrik Vervisch has produced the results. Now Come To You can prove that it's not they're not a one-trick ponies. It's not just Vervisch that's making their cars look good, because Niels Langeveld can produce the results as well.
Yeah, it's a shame Vervisch had his puncture. I don't know why that occurred or how it occurred, but he should have been there on the podium with them. So it could have been a Come To You double podium.
It was left front, wasn't it? I was going to say it might have been where that turn one, where he was on the outside of Guerrieri and Guerrieri's car slid sideways, but that would have been the right front of his car. Well, there's Thiago. Don't forget, Suzuka is owned by Honda. Hondaland is the amusement park here that's got the big wheels. So it's not just that the Honda guys are delighted because they're, quote, at home in Japan. This is actually their circuit. In the same way that Toyota owns Fuji, Honda owns Suzuka. It's actually their home circuit. Well, I couldn't be happier for Niels Langeveld. He's had a really up and down season, you know. Came in here, his first time ever at racing at world level. Almost all of the tracks he's been on this year are utterly unknown to him. Never been to Japan in his life, never seen Suzuka. And look, here he is, first time on the podium. Yeah. Well, let's hear from our top three with Alex Le Gui.
And he's off. Back to the top goes Esteban Guerrieri. Esteban, you're live. Hug and chat. His first win since Zandvoort, third win of the season, puts him back on the top of the leaderboard. Esteban Guerrieri, what a fantastic race that was. You lost the start at the lead, but managed to get it back. Then it was clear sailing.
Ah, man, it is one of the best victories I ever had. This is very important for many reasons, and I'm so happy. So thank you for all that the came on board in this project to be here right now. And yeah, the race, it was quite intense because I did a good start, but the Audis, they are lighter and they are much quicker in the straight. So I couldn't manage the first place because I think Verbic came on the outside with touch wheels. I was afraid that I break something, but thanks God the Honda Civic is like a tractor as well. It's really reliable, so I just could keep going. Then Langeveld went in my inside. I didn't want to risk it, so he got first, and then he did a mistake. I got profit from that, and then after that I jumped into first place, and then I managed the pace. I had the pace to control. The only thing was the start, and yeah, after that we could control the race.
Great result, Esteban. Well done.
Thank you very much. Gracias a todos en Latinoamérica. Vamos, carajo, que se puede.
Good stuff from Esteban Guerrieri. Really important win for him. He takes the maximum points haul. Nils Langeveld, second place, his first ever WTCR podium. Thiago Monteiro in third, a year on after his emotional return to the WTCR paddock. Critically in terms of points as well, Ivan Mull 11th, Norbert Mikulits 13th. So Norby and Ivan both lost points to Ted Björk, who was fourth, to Esteban Guerrieri, who won. But critically, Norby didn't lose much to Ivan. A dry Suzuka circuit for the first race of the Japanese weekend, the FIA WTCR, and after 21 grid penalties, not Thiago Monteiro but Esteban Guerrieri starting on pole for Honda in Honda land. He covered off Nils Langeveld. Fredrik Verbic went around the outside, and as they swapped positions, Langeveld snuck into the lead halfway round the first lap. Cars already going off. Then a mistake from Benny Loister, dropping down the order. He had a puncture. But the Golf not as competitive in the dry. Fredrik Verbic also pulling off with a puncture, but before then his teammate Nils Langeveld had made a mistake and had lost the lead. That left the other cars battling for position. Andy Priaulx being shoved out of the race by Nicky Katzberg and making his displeasure very clear. That brought out a red flag, a safety car rather, that the race finished behind. So it was Esteban Guerrieri, Nils Langeveld and Thiago Monteiro finishing on the podium. Ted Björk in fourth, Ivan Muller and Norbert Mikulits 11th and 13th, having started 25th and 17th. But a delighted Esteban Guerrieri taking victory and reclaiming the points lead. Well, there will be a lot more grid penalties before race 2 and 3 on Sunday. But right now, Esteban Guerrieri has the win that he needed to get back on track. There's his engineer.
This is the nice place.
A baby-faced assassin and his baby-faced engineer. And Esteban Guerrieri hugging everybody in sight. He is clearly just delighted. FIA's Richard Rogers, our conduit to all information about WTCR everywhere at all times. Rog also, among the many hats he wears, producing all the press releases, all the content on the website and everything else. He also has to herd sheep, nail jelly to the ceiling and organise drivers. So the hardest working man in showbiz gets the drivers inside into the media centre for the post-race press conference. And our new points leader is Esteban Guerrieri. Norbert Mikulits is in second. Ivan still ahead of Ted Björk by 14 points. Mikel Ascona still in fifth, ahead of Nestor Girolami, but Girolami now just 3 points behind the Spaniard. So neither of them scored. Jan Erlache, he remains 10 points. No, he doesn't. He closes to 6 points behind Girolami, so he got a few. And Those are the other point scorers. Thiago Monteiro getting points for third place here. And Nils Langeveld having his first podium result in 20th place in the season's standings so far. And Tom Coronel having a wretched season and coming back to Japan, where he won his first ever World Touring Car race a number of years ago. Doesn't seem to have improved his fortunes. Certainly will have improved his mental state, because he does love racing here, but didn't help him too much. So remainder of the top six: Ted Bjerk in fourth, Johan Kristoffersen fifth, Audi and Volkswagen, and Jean-Carl Vernet in Ted Bjerk, rather, the top Lincoln Co, and Jean-Carl Vernet, the second of the Audis, in sixth position. Gabriele Tarquini, the best of the Hyundais, he was in seventh, holding station ahead of the Alphas of Kevin Chacon 8th and Marcin Kwan 9th, Rob Huff in 10th position. 11th was Ivan, 12th Jan Lachey. Norby moved up to 13th ahead of Nicky Katzberg, and 15th, the final point, going to Aurelian Panis. Well, Matt Neal, it's tough trying to get 29 cars neatly around this circuit, but in the end there was remarkably few incidents, I think, for the stewards to concern themselves about. The only one really is Nicky Katzberg and Andy Prio, and there's no question Katzberg is going to cop a penalty for that.
Yeah, it's oh, here we go, we've got the podium now.
Yeah. All right, well, here we go.
The FIA World Touring Car Cup by Oscaro, here the race of Japan, Suzuka. Please welcome onto the podium in third position from KCMG, it's Thiago Monteiro. In second position from Come To You Team Audi Sport, it's Nils Langeveld. And your winner from allincool.com Munich Motorsport, it's Esteban Guerrieri. Representing the winning team, allincool.com Munich Motorsport, it's Oscar Baboisic.
Now, they were holding the Argentine flag upside down. I hope his family weren't holding the Japanese flag upside down there.
For both allincool.com Munich Motorsport and Esteban Guerrieri. For the trophies. The vice chairman of the race, Naoki Nagasaka, will present our third position trophy to KCMG's Thiago Monteiro. The Senior Executive Director of Japan Automobile Federation, Masakatsu Kume, will present our second position trophy to Come To You Team Audi Sports, Nils Langeveld. Managing Executive Officer of JVC Kenwood, Shinichi Takada, will present the winning driver trophy to allinkle.com Munich Motorsports' Esteban Guerrieri. And the Senior Executive Director of Japan Automobile Federation, Masakatsu Kume, will present the winning team trophy to allinkle.com's Munich Motorsports, Oscar Babu-Wittek. Now please come together for your official photographs. Grab your bottles. Let's